Are you feeling overwhelmed, burnt out, and maybe even a little depressed after moving? Well, don't worry, you're not alone. In fact, many people have suffered from relocation depression after moving to a new city, including myself. This is a picture of me just a few months ago. This was about 6 months after I moved. I was recovering from COVID and felt like I had just hit a wall, questioning just about everything. Fast forward 3 months and unfortunately 0 YouTube videos later, and I'm doing a lot better. But in this video, I'm going to give you 8 tips to help maintain your mental health after moving. If you joined my channel for personal finance content and you're thinking this might not apply to me, please continue watching because I'm going to give several tips that could apply to just about anyone, and as well as life-changing book recommendations. These tips were learned based on hard-fought experience after moving my family twice in the past 2.5 years, both before and after the COVID lockdowns and restrictions. This is a really important topic right now because not only did we just wrap up the month of May, which was Mental Health Awareness Month, but a record number of people have moved in the last 2 years or are considering moving. For many, including myself, this was to flee a more restrictive state, think the left coast, to a freer, less restrictive state. And let's face it, moving can be really stressful. Not only do you have to deal with the physical move itself, but you're often also changing careers and leaving behind family and friends. So it's very important that you take care of yourself both before and after the move. Which leads me to tip number 1, which is don't neglect self-care. Trust me, I learned this one the hard way. Self-care is one of the most important things you can do for your mental health, but it's also very easy to neglect after you move, because you are going to be so busy getting settled into your new place and adapting to your new environment. Also, you're likely to have a to-do list that's about a mile long. All these things create more stress and friction in your life, which means you actually need to factor in more time for self-care. This is going to look different for everyone, but some self-care ideas include taking a break from unpacking to explore your new surroundings, scheduling fun activities, getting outside for a walk or a hike in nature, resting, reading a book, journaling, exercise, and proper nutrition. One thing that's easy to forget is that resting can be productive because when we're well rested, we have more mental and physical energy to take on the tasks of daily life. If you're a connoisseur of self-help content like I am, you're probably tired of hearing about morning routines. But there is one book that has helped me a lot in this area, and it's The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. In it, he talks about having a structured morning routine that includes journaling, meditation, and exercise. In fact, I keep a little 3x5 card next to my reading chair where I have a list of reminders of what to do in the morning. Doing this makes all the difference because usually how your morning goes is how the rest of your day is going to go as well. Tip number 2 is to seek out familiar places and routines. After the newness and excitement of your new place wears off, you're likely to feel a little homesick, and you're probably missing things that you used to have at home and your schedule has been disrupted. So a way to overcome this is to seek out places that are similar to where you used to go and establish routines that are similar to what you used to have. This could mean finding a new coffee shop that has the same atmosphere as your old favorite spot, or joining a club or group that shares your interests. Think about all the things that you miss from home and try to find the best substitute you can in your new city. One example for me is that I was really missing the natural beauty of the Pacific Northwest. And now that I'm in Texas, I'm like, okay, where's the beautiful part? So sometimes if I'm feeling a little bit off, I will just look for a park or somewhere with some greenery to go for a walk, and usually I feel an immediate sense of relief. Now, it may not be as beautiful as what I was used to before, but it's really the connection to nature and being outside that I was really missing. Another example for me is I used to have a routine of going into the office, and as with many people since COVID, this routine has been disrupted, and I found myself working from home, which is not always all it's cracked up to be. To try to compensate for that, I would go to coffee shops or the library, but it just really wasn't the same, and I didn't have that similar routine. The first time that I rented a co-working space and got into a quiet office, it was like an entire sense of calm just washed over me, and it reminded me of my old office. Tip number 3, and another lesson I've learned the hard way and still struggle with, in fact, is don't isolate yourself. And this can be easy to do after you move, especially if you're an introvert like me, because meeting so many new people can feel exhausting. You might be tempted to withdraw from all social activities altogether, but unfortunately that's not very good for your mental health and can result in a downward spiral. As hard as it may be, If you continue to put yourself out there, eventually you will find people you can relate to. And this is key. They need to be people you can actually relate to. I had been meeting a lot of new people through forced situations and didn't necessarily feel like I had a lot in common. And this led to me feeling more isolated and insecure. Fortunately for me, when I was going through a tough time, my neighbor invited me to a men's Bible study. And there I got to meet a group of guys who was really down to earth and who I could personally relate to. This helped a lot to giving me a sense of community and making me feel a lot more at home. So if you are feeling isolated in your new city, not only should you reach out to family and friends, which is always important, but I would recommend that you look for a group or club that shares your interests. One good place to find such a group is meetup.com. Meetup is a great place to meet people, make friends, find support, or even grow a business. Tip number 4 is related to my last point, and is perhaps why I would feel so exhausted by those social situations. It was because I was trying too hard to fit in, instead of just being my authentic self and letting the chips fall where they may. Finding the people you are actually going to relate to in your new city is going to take time, and there is no need to rush it. Like many of the challenges you are going to face after moving, you just need to give it time and be patient with yourself. You might be tempted to try to impress all of the new people that you are meeting to feel accepted, but being something that you're not, or constantly worrying about what other people think about you, is going to exhaust you mentally and lead to burnout. This point is so hugely important that I have 2 book recommendations for you on this. The first is The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown, and the subtitle here says, "Let go of who you think you're supposed to be and embrace who you are." And this is hugely important when you're moving, because if you're like me, you may be moving away from your hometown, and back home people had certain expectations of who you are or who you're supposed to be, and moving to a new city can be a way of actually finally finding out what it is you really want. The next recommendation I have for you is probably the single most important piece of advice in this entire video, and that is to get this book right here, which is Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Not only does he have a really cool first name, but he was also the first researcher to explain how the self-image, a term he popularized, has complete control over your ability to achieve or fail to achieve any goal. So while I of course want you to watch through to the end of the video, when you're done, you should stop what you're doing, click on the link to this book in the description, buy it, read it, and I guarantee if you implement what he talks about in this book, it will change your life. Tip number 5 is to examine your thinking. Many of us are not aware of the positive or negative thinking patterns we have going through our minds on a daily basis. You might think you're in a bad mood because of XYZ event, or personal relationships, career challenges, or in this case, moving to a new city. But it's actually not the events that put you in a bad mood, it is how you think about them. Only one person in this world can ever make you feel depressed, worried, or angry, and that person is you. This idea can change your life. And it's usually a specific types of thoughts or thinking that upsets you, and this is thinking that is illogical or distorted. When you feel upset, you are nearly always fooling yourself about something, even though you aren't aware of it at the time, of course. Bad feelings like depression, anxiety, guilt, hopelessness, frustration, and anger are often caused by distorted thoughts. When you put a lie to these distorted thoughts, you can change the way you feel. This is why it's so important to examine your thinking so that you can become aware of any distortions. This is where it can also really help to have someone to talk to. Thank God for my wife, who has helped me many times when my thinking has been all out of whack. If you need help identifying and correcting these type of distortions, then I highly recommend this book, Feeling Good by David Burns, the author I quoted earlier. He's going to help you identify these distorted thinking patterns and find out how to correct them. He also has an accompanying workbook, which I would highly recommend. I've been talking a lot about mental health, but no list would be complete without mentioning your physical health and nutrition. These can be huge factors contributing to post-move burnout, because without your usual support systems in place, it can be easy to miss out on sleep, exercise, or proper nutrition. When you're dealing with a lot of stress, you actually need more sleep and more nutrients to function properly. Getting more sleep and exercise is pretty self-explanatory, but what you may not know is that there are certain nutrients that you need to get in your diet that are proven to help improve your mood and quell anxiety, and being deficient in any of these nutrients can be a major problem. These include vitamin A, D, B1, B3, folate, vitamin B6, vitamin B12, vitamin C, omega-3 fatty acids, glycine, zinc, and cholesterol. If you're not sure if you're getting all of these vitamins and nutrients in your diet, then I highly recommend that you check out the Weston A. Price Foundation, and especially downloading their free brochure on nutrition for mental health, which I will link down to in the description. It's going to give you a list of the exact foods that you need to eat in order to ensure that you're getting all these vital nutrients and vitamins. Tip number 7 is to slow down in order to speed up. What do I mean by this? John Wooden once said, "Be quick, but don't hurry." After you move, it can be tempting to try and do everything at once. You want to make new friends, settle into your new place, find a job, so on. But trying to do everything at once is only going to lead to anxiety and burnout. That's why it's important to slow down and focus on just one thing at a time. I've recently found a book that is very helpful for this idea of focusing on one thing at a time, and it's called Work Clean by Dan Charnas. It is a technique used by French chefs called mise en place, which allows you to have everything in its place so that you can really focus in on one thing at a time. And at the beginning, it might seem slow, but if you do it right, it actually helps you become very fast. Think about chefs in the kitchen. They have to be thinking fast and acting fast. And if anything is out of place, it really hampers their ability to do that. This can also be a reason why it's easy to get frazzled and feel all over the place after you move, because for a while, everything is going to be out of place until you put it in its place. So one of the first things that I recommend you do after moving is finish getting everything in its right place. And I know that can take some time, but it'll be well worth it. I hope to do some videos in the future on moving tips, and this is definitely one I'm going to talk about. Lastly, if you are truly struggling with your mental health after moving, you should definitely consider seeking out professional help. It's nothing to be ashamed of, and there are mental health professionals out there who can give you specific coping mechanisms that are uniquely tailored to your situation. One such service is betterhelp.com, which I will link down to in the description. You can access them through your phone. They have 4 ways to get therapy: exchanging messages, chatting live, speaking over the phone, or video conferencing. If you found any of these tips useful, please consider subscribing to my channel. I'd love to have you as part of the community. And if you want to know the 10 reasons why I decided to move in the first place, you might consider watching this video right here. Otherwise, please consider watching this video right here.